Hey, welcome everyone to episode 16 of In the Hot Seat. For our repeat viewers, thanks for joining us again. For those who are new to the show, we do this every 2 weeks and we put industry experts, customers in the hot seat for a lively discussion, debate, some discourse when we can get it, as we humanize the digital experience. All aspects of the customer lifecycle are up for discussion, as well as the technologies used throughout each phase of the journey. If you are with us on LinkedIn, you may experience a problem with the video cycling. If that happens, please go ahead and switch to YouTube or Facebook. That I think that may have been resolved, but I know that there are some people a couple weeks ago who still reported an issue. So, and this is the final episode of our 3-part series. And after this, we will turn our attention to the impact of organizational culture on CX. So I think that's going to be an exciting one. And we have some pretty good stuff lined up for that, Thomas.
It will be good stuff going on. But right now, it's probably a bit more about the dichotomy. Oh my God. This COVID flu also affects my tongue. Dichotomy between privacy and convenience. So on one hand, we see that people want to communicate in a human way, not just like point and click, but conversate. On the other hand, they want to stick to many of us want to stick to our privacy. And here we are in the battleground of things being convenient and who pays what for it and who needs to pay. Well, basically the praying is probably up to the consumer. And well, it will be interesting to see how conversational and generative AI, not UIs, also they deliver UIs too, can provide a very meaningful customer support. And this is part of what we are diving into today. But what's your stance?
It's a tough one. I mean, my stance in general has always been, if I'm going to put my information out there for my convenience, it's kind of on me. And so I'm sure that opinion will change when it gets used for purposes I didn't intend. But for now, to me, convenience is probably one of the most important things, right? Busy life, busy days.
Yeah.
And I want things at my fingertips as fast as I can. And a lot of times I'm doing things with chat bots for support on the side while I'm in a meeting or something like that. So it's incredibly convenient when you can just chat somebody and tell them the issue you're having and still pay attention over here. So I don't know. What do you think?
Oh, well, I do think as we asked an expert. That's probably a good idea. Today we have sorry, this is...
We should probably let everybody know you have COVID.
So today we have the CEO of Spitch AI as a guest, Alexey by name, and he has been not only the CEO, but also the founder of this company, which exists since 2015. It's an established Swiss company, means there is something about European and GDPR in there already, with a global presence, and it's a leading provider of conversational AI solutions, which has offices around Europe and even in the US, meanwhile. Alexey has a quite impressive record of creating market-leading IT companies, as well as top management positions in the banking and public sectors. So let's bring him on.
Thank you for this introduction. Just to follow your discussion, for me, convenience for the consumers means that their problem is solved in the convenient way possible. So it's all about solving the problem. Otherwise, you don't need it. So let me present Spitch in a few words. We enable our enterprise customers to digitalize their contact centers on this transformation pace, and with the help of the conversational and generative AI. We see contact centers being transformed quite heavily and massively now. Basically, they all have 3 main issues. Now, first issue, they are all converting from somewhat person-centric to somewhat AI-centric. So it's not any longer agent-centric organizations, but AI-centric. And AI plays currently not a supplemental role in the contact centers, but the core one. Second is that contact centers is the one remaining possible channel to compensate sales shortage in the physical offices. Physical offices, and it's not only thanks to COVID, but definitely COVID triggered it. People don't want to go any longer to the contact center, to the physical offices. And in the same time, the potential of mobile apps is already exhausted. So it was a peak, it was a hype. Now it's on the regular pace, and very little organizations could report that their customers buy over 50% through their mobile apps. So the majority stay below 50%. And the only way to compensate that is the contact center, which was always perceived as a source of headache, and now it's the source of sales. And the third one, that most likely thanks to conversational AI, contact centers will no longer exist as something separated within the company, but most likely it will be the additional load to the people who are doing their daily skill-based duties. Meanwhile, solving those customers' issues on their regular workspace, which were not solved by conversational AI and robots. So these three main points of massive shift, which all contact centers experience currently. And basically, we drive our customers through this transformation thanks to our products. Some of them are AI-based. It's text and voice omnichannel virtual assistants, it's speech analytics, and it's voice biometrics. And some is not necessarily AI-based, but they are essential to make this transformation happen. It's knowledge base, it's live chat platform, and it's agent assistant suite.
Now, the majority of your customers is in the banking sector and financial sector, if I understand that correctly. So the question I have with regards to that is, do they use conversational AI also to better understand their customers' journeys? And as a corollary to that, well, everybody of us probably had good and not so good experiences with banks. But do they even care, and why?
They do care because they compete to each other, and they need to be as effective as possible on one hand. So the simple gain of this conversational AI technologies is that customers have no longer wait to be connected. So no waiting time, 24/7. It works. It serves customers in text, voice channel, whatever. So it definitely, and it doesn't ask you security questions to verify your identity because it's verified thanks to voice biometrics. So these things are absolutely visible and clear to the customers, and they by nature improve customer experience. On the other hand, there are more hidden things which happen within the bank and might not directly, but they affect them indirectly. Give you one example. For example, we can normally customers are ranked within the bank like high risk, medium risk, and low risk profile. I mean, all of you, when filling in the banking documents, you had to answer this question. So, what investment profile and what risk profile do you like best? But there are a lot of other clustering points there. So, for instance, we can analyze customers' conversations, and we can cluster them, making summarized. So, if you, for example, have a big high risk profile and wants to invest in the emerged markets, then you are clustered the same way to the other customer who wants to invest in Indonesian market, for example, for high rates. He doesn't necessarily have to have the same risk profile and mention Eastern Asia, but it's the same. And we offer you the same shares. They have the same products, which already had very good experience with the first one. So we can understand the summary of the calls. We can cluster them that way. And that way we can advise you in the most effective manner to, on one hand, sell more. And that way we compensate physical sales. On the other hand, you got the exact proposal which we believe you wanted to get. Bank believes that.
Or ChatGPT believes that the bank believes. But out of curiosity there, and as a follow-up, you said something quite interesting, which is voice print as a security measure. I recently read a bunch of articles that said that this is quite easily, or got quite easily hacked. The most the best in quotes headline saying so, I created an AI and it fooled my family, even my bank, and also my bank. So how does that work with security, maintaining the privacy and the high-risk business then?
Well, it's the endless war between good and bad, like how fraudsters fight against security. So, but what definitely two factors matter here. So first, the legacy technology, which so far I can state it with regret that many banks, they use legacy technologies in voice biometrics. So each and every customer has to repeat the same sentence, like my voice is my password, my voice is my password. And then there is not a big deal to take some voice and to generate this sentence on behalf of you. And I mean, it can be done in 5 minutes currently. And these fraud technologies, they exist and they are known, so there is not a big deal to do so. But we instead apply passive voice biometrics. So it does not need you to pronounce something artificial, but you can continue your free speech. And we keep continuously identify you along the entire conversation. So it doesn't happen just one time before, but it happens along the entire conversation continuously. And on the other hand, your speech, your context understanding acts as a second identification factor. So if you answer something completely out of scope or out of content, then we clearly understand that it's generative voice. Nevertheless, the voice print is running as successfully compared to one enrolled. So, and third one, of course, that always each and every financial institution applies certain limits for certain kind of interactions and operations. So if you want to transfer $1 million somewhere, then most likely they will ask you to come physically to the office or to use something else or to just enter one-time code or stuff like that. But for the certain amount of operations, it definitely makes sense. Being applied not as a legacy technology, but as a new one.
So I have a question on that. So I hear a huge emphasis on sales, but what we're talking about more is customer service, if you will, right? Contact centers, the people that generally have the warm touch. How do you avoid making it sound like you're trying to upsell somebody? When for me, for example, when I call, if I take the time to actually call, I want to talk to a human being. I'm the person who keeps pressing 0 until they give me a live person. Is that still like a backup that people can still do that?
Live persons definitely need to back robots for sure. Okay. They should exist, and we don't say that with our robots we reduce this amount to 0. Never. But what I say is that there will be no dedicated organizations within the company. So a person who will be just responding. It will be the same person who are responsible for example, mortgage loans or credit cards. and they will be meanwhile answering some questions, whether being it in text and in voice doesn't matter, because the majority of these things will be carried out by a robot. That's the overall remedy. On the other hand, we never do outbound calls. I mean, I hate when somebody calls me, and I never buy the things even which I want to buy. And in the majority of countries, it's even prohibited to do such kind of annoying sales service. But the idea is that we do sales solving your support ticket and support issue. So if you call, for example, having your credit card lost, your first inquiry is to block it. And stupid contact center just block it and say bye-bye. But smart contact center, they block it and they offer you some new products. So for example, Amex instead of Visa, or Diners Club instead of MasterCard. So they upgrade your service level because you're in need currently. Tomorrow you will not buy it, but today, yes.
Interesting.
And for that, we need to understand your profile in a very thorough way. And that ChatGPT cannot do, because ChatGPT can provide contextual support in a generic manner. And we might ask him for that, but first we need to summarize and understand your profile stored in our CRM and in our backend system, which we never allow ChatGPT to have an access to, because it's our personalized information here. So first layer is that we cluster you, and then we make an inquiry to ChatGPT, but not generic, but personalized. So please advise what person with such an anonymized person with such kind of profile might need right now. And then it works. So there are two layers: internal layer and external layer.
That's interesting.
For some companies, it might not make sense, but for banks, insurances, and those who are under pressure for data security, in Europe is GDPR, in America it's healthcare, health insurances, or other regulations. Yes, then definitely we need to conform to all these rules, and that's the remedy.
So that's actually a good lead in, because that was my next question. Was, I know you're in the financial sector, right? I've got 25 years in healthcare. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking about the person whose claim didn't process properly, which is the same for insurance, right? You know, you've got a claim and it doesn't process, or you have a question about the contractor that you are looking to bring in and it's not the guy they want. But how would conversational AI, like you provide, benefit healthcare providers in answering patient questions or member questions with enough anonymization of the information on that second level of the ChatGPT function to actually make it compliant with our HIPAA rules, right?
Well, ChatGPT is a good word, but it's all about large language models. So whether it's ChatGPT or some other GPT or some other chat, so the right naming is large language models, which exist, and Spitch uses its own technology. So we don't use any third party's technology in our delivery. And we have health insurances among our customers, and we can install all solution on premise, which some of our customers still require, tier 1 banks, health insurances. And for them, basically, it's the same installation. The only difference is who manages the service. If we provide the service from cloud, then we are responsible for the SLA. If their IT guys maintain this instance, then they are responsible for the SLA, and we are responsible towards them to help them be responsible for this SLA. And this is the only difference. So for health insurances, we don't need to anonymize anything. We just go install solution on-prem, and then nobody cares that the data leaves the customer premises. It's all anyway stored and processed internally because it's all in the CRM.
Interesting.
And this is the remedy. Otherwise, it doesn't work, because it can work as an FAQ, but FAQ does make sense. Everybody is interested in know your customer from one end and being given personalized services from the customer end. I never call to learn working hours of the offices, right? I call to solve my personal issue.
Right, exactly.
Now this almost sounds scripted, because if you use systems for, well, as it's the best known one, ChatGPT or another LLM, large language model, if you use them to get to know your customer better, how can you use them? How does that work without harassing the privacy of the customers, and probably even without going on-prem?
If it doesn't go on-prem, then as said, there are two layers. Well, first statement, only scenarios which are integrated with the backend systems make real sense. Yeah. Otherwise, it's FAQ and something generic, which is anyway placed on the web page and nobody will call because they can just ramble and find it. On the other hand, we, as said, first we understand the clusterization of the customer internally, and this information is being regularly updated and, let's say, continuously updated between the CRM and the conversational AI. And then it becomes generative AI, because we generate the personalized query to ChatGPT being created thanks to our internal customer knowledge, where we don't have any personalized information, but we can ask, for example, not what kind of shares you can recommend this customer to buy to be successful in Indonesia currently. You can place this inquiry and you will receive something from ChatGPT for sure. But we can enrich this inquiry with much more personalized information, like what we can offer to the customer who has low risk profile, who invested before in China and didn't like it for this or that reason, but now he wants to invest in Indonesia, being interested in ABC, without naming this customer, because name remains internally. Yeah. And then this data is by nature anonymized. We internally can understand all these additional questions which we want to ask to make this inquiry highly personalized, but it is already personalized inquiry. We get the response, we analyze it internally, whether it makes sense. And if it does make sense, we ask for something else. If it makes, then we communicate it to the customer. In this case, we don't communicate it to the customer, but to the private advisor or to the agent who deals with the customer, because customer does need to know all our internal hassles. He needs to have firm advice in the end.
Is this truly anonymized?
Absolutely. I mean, our banking customers, you can trust me, they care a lot, especially Swiss banks. No, it's truly no personal data leaves banking premises or secured clouds. It now appears another way where local central banks or other authorities, they state some kind of cloud compliant, and then data can run and be processed within these compliant clouds.
What I'm just thinking is there a way to re-engineer the personalization based upon a sequence of requests?
Well,
I mean,
there are different ways. We need to answer the question why. We need to answer first the question why.
Because I want to defraud the person, because I want to do additional marketing as an outside source. So there are so
then it's exactly what I said. That's exactly what I said. So we need to process personalized data within the organizations. This is done thanks to conversational and generative AI. And then we make completely anonymized inquiry, which we can then again address to our internal instance or address to cloud ChatGPT, so we get the response out of there.
Okay. So no way to re-engineer the Thomas personality.
No, absolutely. I mean, you can imagine in my example how many persons can previously have invested money in China and now wants to switch to Indonesia or vice versa. Millions of them. I mean, no any way to depersonalize it back.
Okay. What then are preconditions for customers to accept this
But again, Thomas, the majority of our customers, they don't just care because they have the entire solution installed on premise. So they don't have to care about that.
Yeah.
No, any single data leaves their premises.
No, that surely makes it easier. So,
Absolutely.
Which is also one level of gaining their customers, or your customers gaining their customers' trust, if they can and do commit that. So what else are preconditions for your customers to readily accept these services?
The
apart
best
from
and
ease, from ease.
The best and clear precondition is ease of use, because they don't need to wait any longer online to be connected first. The ring is answered, the call is answered, or chat is answered from the first ringtone or from the first type. Second is no need to press 1 if you want this, 2 if you want that, or anything else. Just communicate it, just explain it in your free speech, which you prefer. And third of all is that it works 24/7. Not all of our customers' contact center work 24/7. This works 24/7. So these are first type of precondition. Second type of precondition, that conversational AI is not something fancy to the majority of, let's say, our generation customers, because they all have smart devices at home, or at least have friends who have smart devices like Alexa or someone else. They all know what is ChatGPT or stuff like that. So it's not a surprise for anybody that conversational AI exists and works. So could be of help for them. But definitely to make customers enjoy it, bank or other customer of us needs to make some benefits, like before it worked 8/5, now 24/7. You don't need to type or stuff like that. So they need to market it around.
So how does something like this functionality, like Agent GPT or anything like that, how does that change the game for businesses, not just for the consumer, but for the business themselves, other than, okay, you can now get rid of your call center, which I have a moral, ethical kind of response to that, because gosh, you're putting a lot of people out of work that work in call centers. But
so first, Kristy, we don't want them to get rid of the contact center. We want them to transform it first.
okay.
And second, it's all about effectiveness. It's effectiveness for the organizations, because now if you have like 3,000 seats in your contact center, you can imagine how much does it cost. And these people can generate far more profit than they generate loss now. This is the overall message.
Okay.
They conform with this loss, but they know that it could generate even profit. And of course, they would prefer these organizations to not generate loss, but generate profits.
And that profit comes through the upsell, the sales that you were talking about.
First, they reduce loss because robot does need to have monthly salary, and it works 24/7, and basically it could do more or less the same. Second, you motivate people to grow, because they can not just answer repetitive questions, but sell things, grow internally, and having their remuneration growing. And third of all, of course, they can do much more sales than they do currently, because they already confirmed internally the loss of sales in the physical offices, and they have no ideas how to compensate it. And this is the best idea how to compensate it. You have people, you have knowledgeable people, you have a lot of people who know your phone number and your chat. Don't prevent them to do so, rather motivate and generate profit out of there.
Okay. All right, that's fair. So then the follow-on to that is, how does this help not the contact center turned sales, but the actual sales teams, business development reps? I mean, how does it help them do their jobs better? Or does it?
Because our product, Speech Analytics, it gives them many meaningful insights which they now can extract only on a random basis and not regularly. That means that it helps them to supervise, define best practice, make these best practices distributed around on a regular manner. So not a random manner, but on a regular manner, like a process, like a daily process. It helps them to define and make it continuously better. That's one thing. On the other thing, our agent assistant suite can do that not in batch mode, but in real time, which assists their agents or private advisors on the fly, so they can act efficiently, not being improved next day, right? But right now.
Okay. And so then back to the customer side, when does using a robot start to elicit more aggression from customers? Do customers ever get tired of talking to a robot?
Well, I believe we're not talking about stupid robots who continuously re-ask you questions, because these robots make customers aggressive by nature. If we're talking about smart robots, today's or even next generation one, they understand people even better than human beings do. So normally customers like them because they have clear benefits, as I said before, with no waiting time, acting 24/7, chat, voice. You can start in chat, continue with voice, and it remembers the content. On one hand. On the other hand, of course, in the beginning, many people will be trying to find this magic button who connects you immediately with the live person. I mean, they will be typing, saying whatever just to be connected. But with that respect, we need to be polite. We need to say, okay, if you want to be connected, you will be connected. First, explain things to robot, to not just having to repeat the same things to live person. And then finally we connect him if his problem is not solved. In the majority of cases it is. So we should not force people to speak to robot. We should give them benefits, and slightly they stop recognizing that they are still with the robot, because for them it doesn't matter finally. It matters only that their problem is solved in the most efficient manner possible.
How long does it generally take your customers to get used to the robot?
I mean, they have no any other way, because instead of press 1, press 2, robot welcomes them and says, please explain the reason of your call in the manner you like it to be explained. And then person starts explaining, whether robot understands everything from the beginning or ask you for additional questions. For example, if you didn't name you and you start explaining, okay, I got it, but first, what is your name? What is your family name? Now, then in the background, you are verified by voice biometrics, and then whether you're communicated to live person right away, but you are not communicated to the first line. You're communicated already to the skilled group, which is responsible for exactly your cluster of your inquiry, and they already have on their screen what you said before, so they start solving your problem from the very beginning. It's on one hand. On the other hand, if this category is automated, then you go through the complete automated process and your question is executed that way. And then we apply speech analytics to make more scenarios executed completely automatically and less people to be involved in this execution, but in sales rather. So it's continuous improvement pace.
Okay.
It needs to be done smoothly and slightly.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Go ahead, Thomas. Sorry.
Same. So that brings two questions up in my mind. So first, do I need to know that I'm talking with a bot? And
by law,
follow up?
Thomas, by law, you need to
Okay,
know by law. In many countries, you need to say I'm robot. Even if you have human voice, you need to say I'm robot Alexey, for example. No, it's not your case. I'm person Alexey.
Okay. No. Well,
Depends on your bank account. I might want to be Alexey.
let's talk a bit about deepfakes. Yeah.
You apply face recognition as well, so you have many factors.
The other one is that's a bit on the ethics level. Can machines, robots, chatbots, personal assistants, can they exhibit empathy?
Yes, they can. And
How?
there are synthetic voices which
Mhm.
act even better than humans do. So yes, they can.
How?
Oh, interesting.
Sorry, I need to open the door. I just closed this. I'm with
That's
you.
the first. Yeah, the basic gives you probably the time to think. So the follow-up is, of course, the how can they do that?
Because synthetic voices, they can make pauses in the between the utterances. They can sound very, very empathically. And moreover, we can create a brand voice. So if, for example, one entity wants to use the brand voice of Kevin Costner or Brad Pitt or whomever, they can pay him. It exists. It exists a lot of voice talents in the internet. So they sound really good. And people sell their voices for some reason. So they can buy their samples. And then our machine, having only 3 to 5 hours of this voice, it can create very good synthetic voice. So it will be sound really good, and it will be a brand voice for this customer. So it's not only logo, voice becomes a brand as well.
So did you ever see a day when you have a robot talking to a robot?
And it happens. It happens already. In our experience, it happened when one bank applied a robot for their customers who can receive inbound calls. It was in one of the South European countries where inbound calls are not prohibited. And it called personal assistant, who received the inbound calls from our robot as well. And our robot spoke to our robot. It was very interesting, and he collected, he asked questions, so it was finally created a buying ticket. So a robot wanted to buy something, and he he didn't make promises on behalf of the live person, but he agreed to have a follow-up call with already a marketing manager, with the sales manager.
Okay, that's just hysterical. It's like sitting Google next to Alexa and asking them to talk.
Yeah. It could happen.
Is that part of the future? My
No,
robot
definitely,
talks to your robot?
not. No, definitely not.
No. Why not?
Better people keep talking.
That may be, but it saves me a hell of a lot of time if I can have my assistants do that. I mean, 20 years ago, I had a PA in my former job, and she did a very good job. Why not use a machine?
With that respect, definitely yes. So if something completely annoys you, then you can delegate it to the robot. Definitely yes. So I would delegate robot to interact with my constructors at home.
Who sends a machine to build the new
Yeah,
wall?
absolutely, yes. They send machine, I will send my machine, and let's see how machines get an agreement finally.
I got one other.
Oh, go ahead. I was going to say,
Jody had a question.
Jody has a question in our comment section. She says, as a consumer, I get frustrated when I use websites or portals that require me to accept their terms of using my personal data before I can interact. The technology is smart enough that if I say no, I should still be able to proceed and my information is purged. Do you think this all or nothing approach is going to lead to consumers demanding less AI-driven experiences?
First, every AI needs to say, I'm robot, and if you don't want to communicate with me, just hang off. It's first. Second is that normally they say your call will be recorded due to the improvement reasons or so, to make us continuously improved. If you disagree, you can also switch off. And third, if they create your voice print, you have, by law, have to have an active opt-in. So they can say, we want to apply voice biometrics, but now we need to create your voice print. Please say yes if you agree with that. So there are a lot of barriers to not abuse your personal data internally.
Well, now we are back to the topic of trust. So let me challenge that a little. So usually they say may be recorded, which I actually interpret as is being recorded. And the policy behind saying, okay, you may hang up and use another channel is basically making it difficult to not get additional data. What's your position there? Is that a general positioning that you see, or is it me being paranoid?
Well, if we're talking about banks, you trust your bank by nature.
No.
You will not be the customer of this bank if you don't trust him.
I trust my bank that they rip me off. That's the sole thing I trust them with. So,
but you leave your money there. So I would not leave my money anywhere where I don't have trust in.
The other one isn't better. So
you still
the policy thing.
Yes, Thomas. So you still could go to the physical offices and do whatever you want there. When you see people, when you're not recorded by nature, when it's done already hundreds of years. So you still have remedies. You can use your mobile app. You can go to physical offices. You can choose any other, not digital, but maybe real channel on how to communicate with your bank. It's not necessarily bank. It applies to whatever you deal with people, right?
Well, we chose banks as an example, and it's always easy to bash on banks, as much as about German railways. But the last one that I have, and that's again a curiosity one. So you repeatedly said it's about efficiency. So it's efficient for the user, but also or the customer, the end customer, but also efficient for the business. So now, aren't they interested in deflecting as many calls as anyhow possible from their human call center into a digitally technology-driven interaction center? Let's call it interaction center for lacking a better word, in order to reduce their own overhead cost as well?
As well, yes. As well, not necessarily reduce the overhead costs, but at least to spend these costs for occupy these people with something else. It depends on their internal policy. I mean, many companies hire people, and it happens everywhere. But they prefer to not just hire, but to occupy with them with something else, because hiring costs are also high.
Yeah. Indeed.
So not fire. So many companies fire people and hire people, right? So it's normal process. But my words are about to occupy them with something more meaningful than what they currently do.
Okay.
That's the idea.
That's what I wanted to hear. That's what I love to hear, basically.
I also want the labor unions to hear it from me.
I'm quite sure about that one.
Welcome to the United States.
Councils. Okay. I think that's all the time we have today. Internally, we already got our red marker, so we are about on our time allotment. So Alexey, you survived the hot seat. I even think you didn't get burned much.
No, it was very interesting. Thank you for having me here.
So, and in general, and it was a good talk. To everybody around, if you think what it takes to be in the hot seat, just let us know. Then we'd love to hear from you and put you into the hot seat. This is your In the Hot Seat episode for today. Thanks so much for being with us this week, and thanks for your questions, especially to Jody.
Thank you.
I'm Thomas Wieberneit.
And I'm Kristy Tupper. Tune in next time for different faces, different topics, and different perspectives as we put somebody different in the hot seat. Thank you so much, Alexey.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye. Bye.